Do you trust the NHS with our money? The NHS is often considered to be the bedrock of society, isn't it? I mean, it's like the sacred cow. You can't say anything bad about it. Its main role, obviously, to ensure that everyone has equal access to healthcare, free at the point of need. And it's been revealed that the NHS has actually wasted, and this is not much for them, over £1 million on so-called woke staff groups. That includes splurging out on a rainbow flag on bunting and events like Pride picnics. I mean, where have they got even the time? Meanwhile, the NHS is on the brink of disaster. Patient waiting times are at an all-time high. Currently, a staggering 6 million people are waiting for treatment, and health bosses are now urging people to avoid A&E this winter, and they're about to splurge on a COVID-style advertising campaign to tell us not to go there unless it's completely urgent. And this all comes as an 87-year-old David Wakely was forced to wait outside in the cold for 15 hours before an ambulance arrived to help him after falling on the pavement. Family members actually had to build a makeshift shelter around him in a bid to try and keep him warm. And in the latest crisis, as we said, this one is just ridiculous. It was in the papers, front cover of the Telegraph, telling us that we need to avoid A&E. I mean, honestly, seriously, the health system is pretty much broken. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do you trust the NHS with our money? Right, so let's have a chat to Nick Buckley. He's the author and a campaigner and an MBE. Nick, thank you so much for joining me. Right, so I want to start with this because a lot of people are sick and tired of hearing the NHS spending money on managers, over 100 grand, diversity and inclusion, net zero. I mean, and then they're just splurging money on procurement. They spend a fortune on things that would cost you a lot less if you bought them from the supermarket. I mean, where is the biggest wastage area in the NHS?
Oh, and you think I have an answer to that?
Well, I would love it if you did.
I'd be a millionaire if I knew where the biggest waste was in the NHS.
Well, where do you think it is, in your view?
The system isn't fit for purpose. This system was designed over 100 years ago when we had nothing. So 100 years ago, this was an amazing system. But we've rolled on 100 years and it's not fit for purpose. That's the reason why not one country in the world has ever designed their version of their healthcare system on our NHS, because everyone looks at it and goes, that's appalling for today. You know, the waste, half my family work in the NHS. The NHS is the biggest employer in the whole of Europe. It's just a huge oil tanker that nothing can be done because the bureaucrats who run it, I've worked in local government. It's like local government. Nothing can ever change.
If that is the case, then, I mean, what do we do about it? Because obviously we've got the situation where if you call an ambulance, it is, from what I've seen, on many counts, you are playing Russian roulette, because you might actually be better off putting that person in your car and going to the A&E, but they've told you not to go just in case you're not really seriously ill. I mean, the ambulance service, I mean, take that, for example. You said a lot of your family work within the NHS. I mean, what is your view on the situation with the ambulance service?
Why can't we hold anybody to account anymore? If you're running a service, if you're running a business or a shop, and you ran your shop the way the ambulance service is run, somebody would lose their job or you would go bankrupt. But within the NHS, incompetence is never punished. All that happens is you've got a gold-plated excuse, which is, we need more money, so we throw more money at it. And the same incompetent people who are running the incompetent service then use that extra money to run the service just as incompetently. And we hold no one to account.
And the thing is, if you try and say, I'd like to speak to the head of such and such trust, or you'd like some sort of accountability for something, a lot of them will actually avoid even talking to us, yet we are paying for this. I mean, I'll give you an example. The NHS ambulance service, they spend £2.3 billion in England and Wales, and we are tolerating this kind of behaviour. Also, remember the time it was centralised as well, so the person speaking to you doesn't really know the area as well, so it's difficult when they're sending ambulance to you. They may not have an idea of the distances, and then at least The other area of waste is procurement of medicine. About 1 billion a year waste on that, and I think that's a very conservative estimate. I mean, if you were to look at that, why do you think that they're wasting so much money on things, for example, what, paracetamols or other things that can be bought so cheaply elsewhere?
Because that's the system. And when you get new managers coming into a system like this, what they learn very quickly is this system was broken when I turned up. Nobody really wants me to fix this system because it'll cause waves. So why should I be the one who sticks my head above the parapet and try to change things when it was already like this when I turned up and nobody above me wants me to do it? So why should I?
And as you speak, there's nobody above you. They've got loads of flaming managers. But with all of that, they've still got record waiting lists. I mean, what do you know in regard to those? Because, I mean, it's just incomprehensible.
It is. It goes back to my first point. It's not fit for purpose in the 21st century. The only thing that can solve this would be a strong government. And we've not had one of them in decades. Every government now goes, oh, the NHS, it's a right mess. What can we do? We can do these things that will change it for the better over a long period of time. But in the short term, we're going to get criticised. Oh, I don't want to do that then. What can we do in the short term that makes us look good? Throw an extra 10 billion at it. Oh, let's do that then. And that's always the answer. And when you're talking about that story, that came out yesterday about the waste, I read that story. Let me give you one or two more points from that story to put this into context. So the story says that staff involved with this woke nonsense spend 36,000 hours on this. I've done a quick calculation. That's 20 full-time staff a year wasting on this. We're looking at sacking at the moment a woke czar manager at the NHS who's on nearly £250,000, more than the chief exec of the same trust. It just goes on and on. We've got King's College Trust who have funded a booklet that tells trans people to help fund your procedure. Be a prostitute.
What?
That's what this booklet says. They call it sex worker.
Never.
That's a prostitute.
Seriously?
Yeah, King's College NHS Trust have funded a booklet that tells them be a prostitute to raise money to help your surgery.
Well, we'll have to find out about that and get a right reply on that, because I think that if they genuinely said that would be interesting. But I think we'll have a look at that and see.
I will email you the link. I'll email you the link of the story.
Email me the link. We'll have a look at that, because if that is the case, that is incredible. I mean, it is just incomprehensible that we continue to fund this thing. And I'm wondering, because they say, oh, we spend more money in this country per head than any other country. But the point is we need to work out the percentage of waste per head as well with all that money. Well, listen, Nick, I could talk to you about this for ages, and we will be talking about it at length here in the studio. But would you say, very briefly, we've got about 20 seconds, would you say that a lot of this is down to the short-term nature of our politics, because people only do what they need to do for the short time they're in power?
That's the issue with all our social problems, short-termism by politicians. And finally, on the NHS, my advice to them is, I want you to look after my body, not my morality.
Thank you so much, Nick Buckley. Very good to talk to you. That's Nick Buckley, MBE, author and a campaigner.